Yeah, let me pull the thing up, but I'm good. You can
Here we
go.
go. All right. Hey, for once, it's Friday, Chris.
It's actually Friday. Can you believe it? It's amazing.
I know.
What
It's been
a
a week of
what a
Fridays
deal.
this week.
Oh man. I wish that were
So,
the case.
so last time we were talking, we were in Phoenix,
That's right.
actually Pine Top, and it
Yep.
was Thursday evening, and
Right.
Hurricane Helene had blown through Florida. It made landfall. I think it was Thursday night. It made landfall.
That
I think it
feels
was
right
Thursday
to
night.
me.
I think. And
Yeah.
I said to you, well, look here behind it. I've been watching this for about 4 days. We have an area of development. And you said, it's 20%. It's not a big deal.
Uh-huh.
And I said, yeah, so is Helene a week and a half ago. And we watched it and it went to 30%, 40%, 50%, back to 30%, now to
Yeah.
40%. And I just ran a hurricane model. Yes,
Uh-oh.
I'm running hurricane models right here on my computer here. And 2 a.m. October 9th, that's this coming Wednesday,
Yep.
we're going to have landfall, according to this model,
Yeah.
at Tampa Bay. So from Tampa Bay south to Fort Myers, Sarasota, that whole area, got to be watching out for this. And, even Big Bend. None of this is predicted yet because it hasn't actually developed. So they're not tracking it, but the models are out there. And guess what? I'm going to be home for this one. So let's go.
Let's go. Let's go. Maybe not in the way you wanted to.
No,
For
I
for
don't want.
everyone you
I'd
got
rather it to just come over. I mean, what they're talking about is just really heavy rain all weekend and through
yeah.
this period, which I am very thankful for because, yeah, and we talked a little bit about this. The devastation that Helene had done over the last week has been
Yeah.
just crazy and outrageous. And uh, I think we've talked about this on here before. My wife is actually part of the federal medical disaster teams,
Oh, I don't know that I knew
and
that. We may have talked about
maybe
that
we
before, but I
haven't.
don't remember. Yeah, maybe
So
not.
we were watching the news the other day, and there was a team that was in Beach Mountain, North Carolina, which is where I was the week before last, and it was just destroyed.
Oh
And
man.
they were showing Tennessee Task Force One, and she's part of Florida Task Force Six. So she has an event on the 19th, and she told her team leader she's ready for deployment on the 20th.
There you go.
So there
There
you
you go.
go. And I will tell you, watching the videos and everything out of Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee and watching everybody come together, but looking at the devastation, it's just horrible. And I
Yeah.
cannot send enough thoughts to the people up there. We have friends up
Yeah.
there. Where we're looking at possibly moving. So, yeah, lots lots going on there in my head. So,
I I
I know this
I can
wasn't what
imagine.
you had planned to start our
That's all
meeting
right.
with today,
That's
but
all right.
I'm sitting here. You left me hanging for about 5 minutes, and my brain went. So here I am.
That's right. Well, I had to do the last minute beer grab because that's just a part of the show, and that gave you
Yep.
some time with your thoughts, which maybe was a mistake.
Yes.
Welcome everyone, and welcome everyone to On the Rocks, the show where we talk about accounting and accounting adjacent information, mostly as it relates to e-commerce, but also as it relates to hurricanes. I'm Chris. He is Jay. And we are the hosts of your show. Last time we talked, like Jay talked about, we talked about hurricanes and we talked about like all kinds of random stuff, not really anything in particular, as we were up in Pine Top doing strategy related stuff, and just came together to get together and talk because we enjoy that. This week we're getting back on track and continuing that thought actually on strategy. We're going to talk through strategic planning related to business continuity because as you might be aware, that's something that's very relevant right now. We'll talk about managing disaster, highlighting some of the current events like the hurricane that can help you to think through like how this can impact you. Um, But before we get to that, it's been now like a month since we actually hit like a good researched news story summary here, and oh man, there's a lot of
No,
news, a lot of things
yeah, I was
happening. So
surprised by your run through there. I mean, I'm like, whoa, look at all that.
yeah, and the crazy thing is that most of these were in the past like week or two. So that's even more wild. They waited till the beginning of October, right before it gets to deadline time for our tax friends out there to drop a bunch of news. But let's touch on it. Let's talk through it. Let's highlight that for folks around that are listening. Right. So first, there are a variety of things, and mostly around. Well, like I guess this won't be a surprise. Hey, here's some shocking news, everyone. Accounting firms and support companies are continuing to invest in AI. Who could have ever imagined? Some examples of this: the team at Crow is doubling their AI team. They call it the AI Center for Excellence, and so they're shifting some more manpower into that team, or people power into that team to continue to invest in that space to help them with the design of AI products, and supporting other AI initiatives. The folks at Giraffe. So Giraffe is a forecasting and advisory tool that you can use. They have announced the official release of, I don't know if it's GIF or if it's GIF, but it actually starts with a J, not a G. But it's their AI machine learning tool that helps to automate some of that forecasting work. Giraffe, we shouted out them before because they're a little swag giraffe. My daughter just absolutely loved. So winning the swag game, and also the AI game apparently. So they are doing some investment. They're doing this official release of GIF right now. Also, a lot of you may be familiar, especially in the e-commerce space, with Avalara. Or Avalara is one of the one of the sales tax, the main sales tax leaders in the sales tax support space, and they've actually launched an AI supported tariff classification solution. So some international tax activity there from Avalara, and then I saw probably 3 or 4 different vendors, 3 or 4 different companies that have launched AI tools for real-time questioning and tailored responses. They're just coming out across the board. That'll be really similar, I think, Jay, to oh my gosh, what is the Zero tool named?
Jax.
Jax. I can't remember.
Ask Zero, yes.
Yes, Zero. Yeah. So there are lots of other companies that are coming out with tools that are similar functionality to Jax, where you can ask them and have some tailored responses and some specific stuff happen as a result of that integration. So if you're not familiar with it yet, you will be soon. AI is out there; it's coming. Be aware of it and try to utilize it as much as you can.
We've only been talking about this for 10 years now.
Yeah, but now it's like really real though. Like
Now
now
it's
it's like
really real.
really,
Yeah.
yeah. Now it's like, so 10 years ago, because I remember being like hearing some of those conversations when I was at RSM, right? That at that time, like it was like, hey, there's this thing that can do this stuff, but nobody really knew how to use it. It was super cumbersome to even try to do it. It started with RPAs, I think, was kind of the first version that I really thought about. Although, I mean, although OCR and all that cool stuff is really just like the basic case of AI that way, where it takes documents and gives you an output that's nice and pretty. I've been using OCR for a really long time, but this is just the next layer of that. This generative AI is really that's what's really taking off right now, and that's I don't know if we were talking quite about that same thing 10 years ago, Jay. I don't know. Were we?
No, we were just talking about the robots taking over.
Nah,
Not
right.
exactly sure what the robots were at that point, but
Right.
they were a very heavy topic.
Yeah. Now they're a very real topic. So instead of just a theory out there, they're actually happening. And also, yet another survey of CFOs or financial leaders came out from Protivitius. And you won't be surprised to learn, Jay, that data privacy and FP&A are the top priorities for these financial executives. So one of the things that I thought was interesting out of this is that the PCAOB had issued some rules, or maybe it was the SEC, to requiring new disclosures related to cybersecurity, and the CFOs are actually highlighted like, hey, this like rule that's existing is making us think about this more. And so it's increasing our focus on this because we want to be compliant. And so it was a little interesting, I think, to think of how accounting and reporting related rules have actually influenced the actual activity that's happening. You don't see that very much, but this one definitely is an example of that, which I thought was really interesting. And then, of course, CFOs are also recognize how data-driven decision-making is so important, right? And so as you go to FP&A, using AI solutions, cloud-based solutions, and rationalizing different technology choices were highlighted by 58, 57, and 57% of the people in the survey. So very, very popular things to be focused on going forward. So no shocks there, but just another point to highlight. Hey, these things are happening, and especially cyber.
No, go ahead, finish your thought there.
I was going to say, especially with cybersecurity, because as we talk about business continuity and all of that kind of stuff today, I thought it was really relevant to highlight that cybersecurity stuff is in the news, and also that change in disclosures has really impacted like actual activity. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so I think that the larger firms and the more tech forward smaller firms are going to be just fine. And
Sure.
A lot of the FP&A software are built on private AI models.
Right.
What's going to happen is somebody's going to use a public model. You're going to upload financials. You're going to have the client name on there, and stuff's going to happen. There was, and it just reminds me, I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a publicly listed company they uploaded their investor packet into ChatGPT to get it to give them some details and break it down for them. And next thing you know, those details are all over ChatGPT because it was using that information. So you've got to build out your own private GPT and make sure that you have corralled it, you have it behind a firewall, so that you can keep your information private.
Right, and that cybersecurity becomes really critical in lots of different ways, and again, especially as we talk about business continuity, in the later part of this conversation. So. The IRS also had a few different updates that I saw over the past couple weeks. It looks like they're intending to double the reach of Direct File, which is the free filing program, I believe. They're intending it to be available in 24 states and increasing the capacity by nearly 30 million taxpayers. So that's a pretty substantial increase, I think.
Now that's capacity. How many used it last year? I don't remember that number.
I don't remember either, but I do think. They're intent on actually increasing the utilization, which is exciting to see, I think.
Well, I mean, as long as people are using it and those that need to have the free file and have access to it. I know that there were some other limiting factors to it. I was reading a story about that as well, where it doesn't have access to all the forms and all the credits and things like that. So, but it's a good start. I mean, get things rolling.
Yeah.
The IRS is pushing out some good technology.
Can you believe it? Amazing.
Did I just say that?
There will be no shock in this, but obviously with the hurricane involved, there's been extended relief for all or parts of 7 separate states. So know that you have the opportunity to extend a little longer, although that's probably not your focus, and that's the reason why they're allowing you this extension.
And just, and I've said it before that, we were looking for another extension here in Orange County. We did not get Helene relief. So yeah, and I'm kind of glad because it was actually pushing it was actually pushing out the 24 returns, those due on March and April till May.
Oh
So
wow,
yeah,
yeah,
let's give that to the people that need it up in in Georgia,
yeah,
up in
the
the
Carolinas.
Panhandle of Florida, and Western North Carolina and Eastern Tennessee, where they really need
Yeah.
that. So
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The IRS also changed their special per diem rate effective a couple weeks ago, or not a couple weeks ago, a couple days ago. So October 1st. Jay, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know what the special per diem rate is actually used for. Can you enlighten me?
there are
Or-
some travel rates that you can use to get reimbursed and not have to submit receipts to your business or to your
Oh,
company.
okay.
And I
Yeah.
don't know what the rates are at this point either because I don't use them.
Hmm.
You reimburse based on
Yeah.
actual expense. So, but
Yeah. And so they,
if
they
you
increased
want,
them. So if that's something that you're doing, I think it was something like 100 and something a day. So if
yeah,
you're using something like that, be aware of that change. This isn't IRS related, but it is kind of like compliance related. There's also been extensions of the filing requirements around the BOI reporting and also the FBAR filings, which aren't technically IRS documents, but are very similar in nature. Um, Also related to the hurricane relief, so maybe I should have talked about that at the same time. But know that some of
that's
those
okay.
filings have also had extensions from the end of the year out a little bit farther. Um,
So I can tell you, I filed and actually recorded a video on filing my one of my BOI reports,
yeah,
and it took me less than 5 minutes to do it. Now, granted, I
yeah.
did go in previously and set up a FinCEN ID for myself because you need to put that information in twice in the BOI report. And I
Hmm.
have multiple businesses as a serial entrepreneur. So instead of typing it out, all I had to do was copy and paste my FinCEN ID twice in there, and I was done. It literally took
Nice.
less than 5 minutes from logging in and starting it and doing it. So it is a very light lift. And if you have more than one business and you have more than one beneficial owner, definitely fill out that FinCEN ID, get that. It makes it so much easier. The key there is you have to have a login.gov account, which is relatively simple to get. Just go in and start the process. It validates you. I think it takes a picture and it looks at your ID or something like that. Yeah, I mean, I've had it for accessing the IRS and for um, school related items for Abby and for her
Hmm.
financial aid. So it's something that pretty much every American's going to have at some point anyway.
Yeah, it's your future digital login to all that
Yep.
stuff, I'm sure. So why not get ahead of it? We talk about getting ahead of technology. This is another spot to do that. And then it does ease the effort of that requirement, and you're not going to get out of it. Like you're still going to have to do it probably. I guess we'll see how that all shakes out. Still in a little bit of limbo, but it's not that big of a lift like Jay was talking about. Um, Outside of the accounting space, there were, well, not all the way outside. There are also a few like tech initiatives, and then just like a long laundry list of exciting e-commerce things happening over the past couple weeks. So first, Validus, I think is the name of this company. I actually don't know the name. I've never heard of it before, but it's an accounting software company of some sort, and they have built some kind of tool to ingest data from any system, standardize it, and streamline the data collection process with an expected rate of 85 to 96% accuracy. Like that's wild to me. Like they it sounds like they support companies in audit support and different areas like that of taking information and documents and just taking and extracting information out of that so that you can have all of the different records available there. So seemed like a really neat product and probably one I'd like to look more at.
Yeah,
Did you
it
Google it, Jay?
connects. It connects to yeah all of the major accounting platforms:
There you
QBO,
go.
Zero, Dynamics 365,
Yeah,
NetSuite, Sage, and yeah, pulls the data through, and I guess you can use it for multiple purposes.
yeah. It looked like it also connected to
Something I'm gonna check
SureLink, which
out.
is a yeah. It looked like it connected to SureLink, which is an typically an audit-based document managing platform, so where you can manage document requests and things of that nature. So I wonder if it connects also to things like TaxDome or other tax-related things. So I don't know. Look into Validus. It sounds like they're doing something interesting, at least, and being able to just kind of drop information from anywhere in and get an export that tells you what's in there with a pretty high level of accuracy is a pretty cool deal. So excited to see what comes out of that and how effective that actually is. There's the one on there from before. So we talked previously about Amazon starting to like deploy and utilize their delivery drones in the College Station area here in Texas, so a couple hours to the south of where I am. I read an article that said that there had been some pushback because the drones are too loud. So I thought that was interesting feedback. I know College Station, it's not heavily populated, so it's a lighter populated area, and so because of that, a little more quiet and country-like, I think. And so if you get those drones whizzing around making all that noise, maybe that does impede on your like porch sitting or whatever you'd be doing there in the College Station area. But yeah, some complaints around the delivery program there. I wonder if
that's interesting.
I wonder if it were piloted in a city area, if that changes some because city's already just loud more broadly.
For sure.
But I did think it was interesting to hear that there was resistance to the drone delivery. Speaking of Amazon, they got all kinds of things going on. They showed up in our news summary here several different times. It sounds like, and Jay, I hadn't seen this before, but it sounds like they've launched their supply chain by Amazon. So outside of just fulfillment, they want to take on the whole thing for you now, where they can where all you need to do is provide them the product details and the pickup locations, and Amazon actually will take care of the rest of that funnel for you. So that whole supply chain funnel. So an expansion out of fulfillment into the entire supply chain management process.
Well, I was talking to somebody yesterday here in Orlando that's in tourism, and they were telling me that Amazon is hiring 250,000 transportation workers.
Yeah, and so that's actually down later in the news.
I missed it. There you go. But this wasn't for holiday fulfillment. This is for actual logistical support.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. So the way that the article that I read pointed it as maybe they're starting in the holiday timeframe, so starting in this Q4,
right?
And maybe they'll hang around. But yeah, no, that's Amazon. So Amazon, like I said, in the news, they're planning to hire. These are not full-time workers. Most of them are part-time fulfillment people. So people who drive cars, drop the deliveries off, that kind of thing. But yeah, 250,000. That's a big amount. And then overall, that same article that I read had a prediction of about 500,000 total new jobs being created during the holiday period, which actually was a little bit lighter than in prior years. I think in 2023 that number was 560,000, so it's down a pinch. And I think that kind of lines up with what we've been talking about for months now, that there are some like recessionary headwinds, but everything still seems to be moving and trucking along without like the full blown recession. So just a little bit of the slowdown, not a complete mess.
Supply train and trucking. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And words there.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, so much. One thing that I thought was an interesting thing, and I didn't realize that this didn't exist before, and that's because I don't really use the platform all that much. But it sounds like TikTok is enabling some keyword-based ad spending stuff for their search results, where you can search on TikTok, and now your talk or whatever they would be called will show up in these keyword searches, which is the way that I always kind of thought search stuff worked as far as ad stuff goes, but maybe TikTok didn't do that as much. But it sounds like it'd be a good time to be an investor in TikTok, because that's a good opportunity to cash flow some money, I think.
Where are we on that timeline to force them to be shut down or sold?
That's a good question. Don't know. Don't know. Probably worth a follow up. Um, for for folks out there using eBay, eBay is expanding their seller capital program by incorporating I don't know what it is, but that's an embedded finance platform that just helps to enhance that seller capital experience, and I think is also allowing for a little extra capital to be able to be utilized. um, Oh, and another thing that I thought was interesting is ShipTop, who I also hadn't heard of. Um, but they got a seed round of funding of about $500,000 to focus on sustainable and eco-friendly shipping solutions. So green shipping, if you will, which is exciting to hear about, right? We've talked about hurricanes and all the climate change related issues that are spurring up the more violent, more powerful storms, as well as a whole wide variety of other different climate related issues. So being able to consider that the environmental impact of shipping, because it is substantial, is good to see that there's some funding in that space, and somebody like looking to try to do that in a way that will hopefully make some kind of difference. So look out for ShipTop and their eco-friendly solutions there. Um, Jay, your folks at Zero. I feel like you probably have told me about this already, but they what did they do with Klarna? Was this new?
This is news to me.
Mm. Yeah, so
I
Zero
mean,
has incorporated with their invoice paying platform, I think, at least according to
yeah,
the article that I read, the ability to buy now and pay later, like with Klarna, or through Klarna, like not like with Klarna, but actually with Klarna. So they've partnered with Klarna to allow allow that buy now pay later option. So I thought that was a fun fun application of that. I hadn't really thought about that you could incorporate that right in your accounting system, but nice to know you can.
yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna dig in deeper there and check that out and see how if it's
yeah,
already in the platform or if it's coming, and
yeah.
see how it works.
All right, right on. Well, I mean, I think a lot of people like that option. There's pros and cons to that as a consumer. So just be wary. Like, don't buy something you can't afford, and all of the things that go along with those buy now buy now pay later options. And then finally a couple different things that I thought were interesting news points. The first one is that North Face launched a renewed program where they're allowing people to return older product for credits on newer product, and they're then like they have now like a secondhand store, and these secondhand style programs look to be on the rise across lots of different places. So I noticed when I went into REI a few weeks back, there was a whole little corner of the store dedicated to like reown or whatever it would be called, right? Like used products basically. And so I know that is a big market, because they're, you don't, not everybody wears out the t-shirt that they wear, and certainly not the like nice shoes or the fancy dress or the like whatever it might be, right? And so there is a big market out there for reused product, and so it's interesting to see these brands actually take that on themselves to own that instead of letting people like ThreadUp or OfferedUp or whatever type of different platform is out there for this secondhand um, in and out. So so I suspect that will start to happen more frequently, especially in those areas where your product has a longer life, and isn't just completely consumed, right? So not just a consumable, but not a beer here, right? That's not, it's not working in that space. But but in clothing particularly, or like I bet there'd be something like that in furniture or any of those types of goods where you can use them for a while, get bored of them, and want to replace them or upgrade them. Um, and so So I think that will be an area to watch, and certainly if that's the space that you play in, if that's your product, it's probably something to consider. How or whether you can tap and take advantage of that market area. And then finally, I've heard of big commerce, right? I know that they're a platform competitor, a marketplace competitor. I think, Jay, and you can correct me if this is wrong, but a marketplace competitor with Shopify. But Shopify has been crushing them, and so because of that, maybe not just because of that, but partially because of that, they're changing CEOs. The old guys out, new guys in. The old CEO had seen some. They'd still been growing, but not growing as much as they had been prior. And they brought in someone with an IT consulting background. So I think that new focus may make big commerce and improve their competition in the space. So I think it'll be interesting to see. Oh, you don't think so at all?
Nope.
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 All right. Well, then they're just over.
So I don't think a new CEO is going to help them in that situation.
Okay.
Having worked in 5 or 6 different BigCommerce installations, which have now moved over to Shopify, I could tell you for the smaller shops, which is probably where they make a lot of money on them, it's not easy for the individual owners to make changes. Whereas in Shopify, you can just drill into it, make the change, and it's live. You got to really dig deep in BigCommerce to do that. And it's a platform issue, if you ask me. They need to simplify it. Now, instead of simplifying what they did, they banked on B2B business and going more commercial.
Oh,
so
okay.
We'll see where that goes. I think Shopify is eating their lunch all day long.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, no, that seemed like like what was probably happening, and I'm sure that the new guy that they brought in is going to be well aware of that, and hopefully, Jay, like maybe they'll make the platform simpler. Right?
Maybe they'll reach out to us and we'll give them some.
Yeah, right. BigCommerce, give us a call.
There you go.
We'll tell you all about it. We'll tell you why your platform sucks. Or more importantly, like how it can be better, right? How it can be better. BigCommerce, I'm sure lots of people out there use it. I'm sure they're clearly growing still. So call us.
We got some ideas for you.
Get that feedback. Absolutely. Jay, it's been whatever, like a week or whatever now, 2 weeks, something like that. Since we had a beverage together this way, right? Virtually. Right. What you got today? Water again? Coffee?
I've been drinking coffee here, and
it's a fancy cup you got there.
About an hour and a half ago, I made another pot because
oh my word, Jay!
I did not sleep well last night. I had coffee last night about this time, and I did not sleep very well. So
trying to keep it going.
Go for it. But
well, there you go. Good luck. Today for me, it's Montucky. Never heard of this before, but it's cold snack. It's just a regular old plain old lager. Because I drank all the Oktoberfest last weekend. Womp womp womp. So I got none left, and once I get done with that, we're cleaning out the fridge today. Got a Modelo left over from before. We're just cleaning out the fridge today. So that's what we're doing right now. All right, Jay, let's talk about more strategic stuff. Let's talk about business continuity. Let's talk about planning for that. Let's talk a little bit about what that even means.
For sure.
And then we can talk through like how you can do some things to address it.
So this week, I mean, we had a hurricane, which had major impacts in the Southeast. We had the dock workers on strike, which I believe now they've returned to work after I've studied up on Taft-Hartley, and I'm going to be able to talk about that. But they've only kicked the can. They've agreed to extend it to January. So hopefully they will come to terms and sign that contract before then. And we won't have any issues there. But we don't know. So we have
and we did the same. we did the same thing at the federal government level too, I think, right? Like they did
Yeah.
another cane kicker there of like, let's worry about this government shutdown deal and after the election or whatnot.
Hmm.
So there are all kinds of threats like that. And
Yeah,
so when we talk about,
and the
go ahead, Jay.
cybersecurity threats. We've talked
Yeah.
about all three of these types of things in the past 6 months because we had
Yeah.
the auto dealers that were held hostage by a
Hmm.
cyber threat. We had
Right.
the port in Baltimore shut down. We've talked about
Right.
storms before. So, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
now we have all of this at one time coming in, and it's like we got to really be cognizant about what's going on.
Right. And so when we talk about business continuity, what that means is that in these types of disasters, you're able to continue, that's the continuity part, your business, right? You want your business to be able to continue to function and continue to run in the case of disasters, be that people disasters, be that natural disasters, or be that hacking disasters or whatever they might be, right? And so there are lots of ways to address that, but the most important thing is to understand where you are facing that risk. So where you as a business are exposed to those types of issues. And so obviously, if you have a plant in North Carolina, um, you had that exposure, right? If you have a plant in Florida, you have that exposure in a much different way. Where in North Carolina, you're not as well prepared for hurricane force activity and the volume of rain and everything that's gone through that area. So understanding your exposure and those areas that you have risk, both to natural disasters, but also to those other types of threats. So understanding what drives your business, as we've talked about before, like you mentioned, Jay, when ports start to close, when you didn't expect it, when you're running into Red Sea travel delays because boats can't get through because they're being attacked because there's war or whatnot going on, right? You need to understand the exposure that you have and that your business has in events like that, um, and and then how that impacts you. And then the same is true of cybersecurity threats. Like you need to be aware of the ways that those types of things happen. So that's staying up to date on how those things are perpetrated or what kinds of sources that they can go through, and understanding how to both prevent them and make sure that your teammates are helping you to prevent them. Because there is a reason that IT specialists make you go through the little cybersecurity training and tell you not to click on the bad links and all of that kind of stuff. Like that isn't, those types of things are not by mistake, because those are the areas where you have exposure, and that's how you can expose yourself to these types of threats. And so understanding like the risks that you have as a business is at least in my opinion like most critical first step. Like you need to know what could go wrong. Um, Jay, do you have extra thoughts on that, or more to say?
Well, as you're doing your planning on that and you're looking at your business, when it comes to natural disasters and cybersecurity, not so much the port, you
Yeah.
have insurance to cover you should
Right.
these issues happen. So you want to make sure that you are properly covered. So
Right.
for business interruption insurance, you want to know what your current sales are. You want to update that to your insurance carrier so you could be covered should something happen. That
Yeah.
way, you can continue to pay your employees, you continue to pay yourself and keep the business open and running, even though you can't operate and it's just keeping everything in motion.
Yeah.
And then cyber policies to protect you
Right.
in the case of a hack or something along those lines, or protecting you from that dreaded click where something might be released or something like that, where you want to make sure that you are protecting your data. So things along those
Yeah.
lines.
I mean,
And
and I've seen this happen in a couple different
yeah,
areas recently too, because it is happening, and it's happening a lot, especially in healthcare and healthcare support right now, where like there's a lot of information that is available there, and because of that, that makes them very like appealing. And in those cases, the when that system shuts down, especially if you're not like well prepared for it, it can take weeks to get back to where you were before. And so we're not talking about just like, oh, okay, well, we'll be right back up, right? Unless you've planned well, you're not going to be able to be right back up,
Right.
and you're not going to be able to right back to business, because you have to start your system over. You have to understand exactly what your exposure is. You have to know the ways that you can fix it. And the people that are experts in that area, they know that, and it's not cheap. And so that's why it's so important to revisit that cybersecurity policy, because it's not. It isn't a quick fix if you're not well prepared. Like this is even if your exposure is relatively minor, like it can take a lot to restore everything from a backup, and
For sure.
to get back to business as you were expecting. Even if you are like well insured and ready to go there, it still isn't something that's just like a flip of the switch. So making sure that you understand your risks, and that also that you have a plan, is really, really important in these areas, right? We've talked about that. One of the ways to have a plan is to ensure that you're insured, right? To make sure that you're covered for a situation like this. The other is to know what to do, right? If in those types of situations you want to truly have a plan, like just a general like disaster plan, or whatever. What would you call it, Jay? Like um, we're in trouble plan. Yeah, disaster plan, right? Disaster preparation, right? Like you want to be ready for those types of events, just in case. You need to know like who you need to call and what the next steps are, and whether you should pay the like Bitcoin ransom. Like what's the right steps, right? You need to understand those, and you need to have a good little outline of exactly what you should do next. Jay, when you were working in the nutraceutical business, like did you ever run into any of these types of disaster issues, or do you have any stories of something like that?
Didn't have any cybersecurity issues.
That's
We
good.
did have hurricanes we had to shut down for,
Yeah.
and because we were not in the cloud, we had hardware that we had to protect
Yeah. Yeah.
and take it down, put it back up, make sure it was covered, things like that.
Yeah.
But it was in that situation, we had business interruption insurance, so should we had to shut down for a lengthy time, we would have been protected.
Yeah, and so that is exactly what a plan is, right? You need to know where your
Yeah,
exposure is. If you don't know where your servers are, like it's worth asking that question, and being aware of whether or not that is something that needs to be protected, right? You
yeah,
don't want you don't want a little flood to ruin your whole business history, because
right.
you weren't thinking about moving that equipment in a way that was going to help to cover you. Um, yeah, so I think that that's really important. One other thing that I think if you're thinking about business continuity and you want to like to really be prepared, one of the best and most important things, and Jay, we'll say this all the time. One of the best and most important things that you can do is work with a skilled professional, right? Somebody who knows those answers, someone who can help you to do that, someone who can make sure you do have a plan, that you are thinking about those risks associated with this. There's typically nothing more important than having someone that you can trust to talk you through issues like this. What other considerations do you think we should be talking about when it comes to business continuity and planning for these types of issues?
Well, and when we're looking at an e-commerce company, you have product on the ground,
Right.
so you have to have backup contingencies for getting that product replaced, whether
Right.
that's having backup manufacturers, or in the case of a port strike, a dock worker strike, are there other ports you can bring that product into?
Right.
Things along those lines. So yeah, it's always something to be thinking about.
Well, yeah, and when you have inventory, it really does make a lot of this stuff that much more complex, because now you're not just worried about a server or
Right.
or rebooting your system, because you also now have a warehouse somewhere with a bunch of stuff in it. And so now you also need to worry about this inventory, exactly like you're describing. You don't need to just be prepared to get more inventory. You need to understand what kind of risks you have associated with that inventory. Is that inventory insured? Right?
And that leads
What
to
is
knowing your numbers, what you have
right?
on hand, and
Yep.
being able to communicate that to your insurance company or to an insurance adjuster or to your
Right.
banker or whomever. Yeah, so
Right.
it's
Exactly.
all interrelated.
All connected, right, Jay? It is pretty
For
funny
sure.
how when it comes to being well planned, one of the best ways to start that is by having good financial records, because that does help you to identify your risk because you understand that exposure, right? You understand how much property are you exposed to, right? How much inventory do you have on hand, and what do you stand to lose in the event of
Right.
an unforeseen disaster or even a potentially like planned for one. Like
Yeah,
what
and
does
I've
that
seen
mean?
a company decimated because they actually invested heavily in their inventory and their insurance policy had a quarter of it as their amount they
Ooh,
were covered for. So it's
yeah,
important that you keep track of that and you keep your insurance broker and agent and the insurer up to date on what you have on stock
right.
on
And
hand.
the only way to know that, right, is to properly manage it and to properly understand exactly what that means. Um,
Exactly.
any final thoughts on business continuity, Jay, or
Just
any
keep your head in
other?
the game. Pay
That's
attention.
right,
Know what you
right.
got, and you know, plan and be prepared before it happens because when it does, you won't know it's coming.
That's right. Now, in some cases, you won't. Like a hurricane, you might like know it's coming, but you might only know a week in advance, or maybe a few
Right,
days in
but in the
advance.
case of North
We're strict.
Carolina, you're not
Oh
thinking
yeah,
you're going to have this much disaster from a hurricane coming in
no,
from the panhandle of Florida because it's going to quickly dissipate. And in this case, it didn't. It was
yeah,
still tropical storm and possibly hurricane force winds when it got through Georgia. So it's
yeah,
very different. It's the
right,
climate is
yeah,
changing. We have to be prepared, and we don't know what's going to happen.
that's right. Yeah, they say that a lot, right? I am in the Dallas area, and we're a 5 hour drive inland, and that's probably about the same as like Asheville would be.
Yeah.
And so if a storm like this were to just roll through Houston and run right up I-45 to the Dallas area so quickly and so powerfully, like Dallas wouldn't be prepared. It's the same
How
idea.
many miles are you
Um,
from Houston? Did you say?
hmm?
How many miles are you from Houston in Dallas?
I don't know the miles. It's about a 5 hour drive. So
Okay.
300, 350, something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, I was going to say because Asheville is about 300 miles from the east coast of Florida, and it's
Yeah.
probably it's more than 300 miles from the Panhandle of Florida. I mean, from
Yeah.
the east coast of North Carolina, not Florida. Sorry, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
So again, then like that means that you have exposure where you might not expect it. Is
right.
exactly what you're. That's exactly the point you're trying to make, Jay.
Yep.
And
For sure.
and that's exactly what you as a business owner should be thoughtful of. Is sometimes
For
that
sure.
exposure isn't exactly what you think it is. What's important for you is that you understand your exposure, that you understand your risk, that you have some kind of plan to do something about it if it does happen, and that in that process that you're working with people who can truly help you, so skilled professionals of some sort or another. So do those three things and you should it's going to be bad, right? Disasters are inherently bad, but it will not be as bad as it could be if you've planned properly.
Yeah. Lessen
um,
the impact on your business and your finances by planning ahead and just know you will have the suck that you have to get through, but it
right,
won't be as bad because you've be prepared and you are ready for it financially.
right, exactly. Well, wonderful. Any final thoughts on business continuity, Jay? I already asked that, I know, but now any bonus final thoughts?
Just be upfront with
All
your
right.
insurance people. Get that
Oh
set
yeah,
up.
it's important.
You know,
Right.
Just say,
Absolutely.
hey, this just happened. Tell me, what's it going to cost me to be protected? It doesn't
Yep.
hurt to do it right now. So
Yep.
jump in there. Yeah.
All right. So then, Jay, let me run this through to you. All right.
Yeah.
So you were traveling for like weekends in a row. You got back home. You traveled again to go to parents' night. Um,
Yeah.
if I remember correct, and this might be wrong, but is this like the first weekend where you've been at home for the whole week and also don't have Abby in like maybe 18 years?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All
For
right.
sure.
So are
Yeah.
you like gonna sleep all weekend, or how are you taking advantage of this? Like, or are you just gonna be sad? Like, what what,
No,
what's the
no
thought process here?
sadness.
Yeah.
Our neighbor's daughter is getting married, and we're going to a wedding tomorrow afternoon. So
Wonderful.
yeah, it's a very joyous occasion.
Yeah.
And then going to follow that up with a Talladega race on Sunday. Well, I'm going
Ooh,
to be at
it's
the
time,
Talladega
huh?
race tomorrow too. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun, crazy one. So
Yeah,
lots going on this weekend. Yeah.
that's wonderful. Obviously, we haven't mentioned it, and maybe we should have from the very top. But we're 11 days, maybe 12 or something. I don't know. What's the actual filing deadline this year? 15th,
15th.
definitely. So
We are
yeah, so
7
we're
working days. Yeah.
seven working days away from that final tax deadline. Obviously, if you've been impacted by some kind of emergency or whatnot, you have some flexibility there. But that's only 7 days away, and obviously, it's better to be in and done than to have to worry about it later, regardless.
For
So
sure.
if you haven't already, put some thought into how to get those things resolved. Get any final requests over to your tax preparer, so that you can get wrapped up in time. And in fact, if you haven't gotten final requests to your tax preparer, don't expect to get wrapped up on time, because seven business days is
Yeah.
that's a heavy ask. Um,
Yeah. It's fun. Yeah. This
yeah.
time of year is always fun. So.
Are I obviously that makes next week like a heavy tax week, Jay. But are there other
Hmm.
like big things on the horizon? Do we have anything that we should look forward to coming out of zero, or or
Not that I'm
are we
aware
talking
of.
talking to Danny Werfel about something next week? Like, what do we got going on?
I don't know anything going on at this point. I know
Great,
Intuit Connect is coming up in a couple of weeks.
there we go.
I think it's like on the 28th or something like that. So we got a couple
Okay,
weeks till that happens. But yeah,
yeah.
not that I'm going or you're going. So yeah, all good
I mean,
there.
but that you never know what comes out of those big types of conferences.
Never know.
Companies
Yeah.
always love to like highlight the cool stuff that they're trying to do. So we may get some news in a couple weeks out of Intuit. Um, Me, I am probably not doing all that much this weekend. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to watch my fantasy football teams. Hopefully, get to some positive record
There you
situations.
go.
Most of them are 2-2 or 3-1 right now. Um, so hopefully we can build on that to head in a positive direction.
Always a
But
positive thing
but
there.
right, but we'll see. And then I don't have any like real plans. So there won't be a whole lot to report back on. We'll see if the next week leading into the tax deadline is as full of news as this week was. I am not going to hold my breath for it, but we'll be here to talk about it next Friday, whatever
Sure
comes
will.
up, and we look forward to seeing you then. So thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you in the next one.
Have a great
Bye,
weekend, everybody.
everyone.
See ya.